I have a lot to say tonight, and so this is probably going to be a very long broadcasting night for myself. Some of you might care, some of you might not. I personally don't care which you fall under. Yeah, you may have noticed I've got some shaving to finish up here later on as well, so I'm trying to get a lot of things done in a very, very short amount of time because I'm trying to get my life back on track aside from trying to get myself back to school and get that back in operation and get myself on to a bigger, better world and life where I'm not dependent on anybody, especially since I've been doing everything in my power not to become dependent on the state or even ask the state for money because I want to try to do things on my own as best I possibly can. And that doesn't mean that I'm making you out there pick up the tab for my failings, although at times people still don't like me, and well, I can't help that now, can I? Nor do I think I care to. This is going to just be sort of a brief intro video or basic update things. If you haven't been paying attention, I have finally ported over a lot of my playlists from my old channel. Mainly being the totality of my research into pedophilia, and I'm probably going to be adding to it because there's a sex crimes investigation that the New Yorker did this year that I seriously feel needs to be addressed. Not because it's inaccurate, but because it talks about almost exactly what I've been talking about from the beginning. Now, some of you may hate the New Yorker as a source, in which case I'm going to have other sources around the reading of the 8-page article that the New Yorker had published. But this goes to show that I'm not the only person who's talking about how ludicrous our sex laws are and how people are being punished for either no crime or almost for pre-crimes when there's no proof that the people that we disagree with that do things behind closed doors, things I might add that don't actually involve children in any way, shape, or form, they have to be found, cataloged, made into a database so that they can be easily harassed whether they have ever committed a crime or not. Because in our collective unconscious, the moment they've opened that door, apparently they've opened the door to a future crime, no exceptions. Because the moment they open that door, they cease to be a person with free will. They cease to be a person who can make up their own choices, who has their own morality, and so on and so forth. My video series is to show people that individuality will always trump public opinion, and that people can be people. People can abstain. People can allow themselves to be productive members of society without hurting somebody. And just because they happen to be born a certain way does not guarantee that they will ever harm anybody. Unless, of course, we're going to push them into it and then jail them for a self-fulfilling prophecy. The New Yorker had much the same opinion I have, although sadly, as the article will illustrate when I do get to that at some point in the near future, the comment section is predictable. Oh, I'm supposed to have sympathy for predators now? Nobody said that. No. You see, you're saying pedophile or you're saying predator when what you mean is, do we have to have sympathy for those who molest children now? To which the answer to that is sometimes yes. And I know that that's a controversial stance, but if somebody can be reformed, can become a productive member of society, and if there is a way that we can reduce or almost eliminate completely recidivism, then we should be doing that. Because as the New Yorker illustrated, we are not doing that in the ways that we treat sex offenders, whether they are involved in child sex offending or not, or whether they were a teen who got caught having sex with another teen and thus entrapped by the laws that are meant to entrap people who are doing harm to children sexually, physically, mentally, and so forth. The fact that whether we're talking about the offender themselves or the victims, we have a one-size-fits-all prognosis, diagnosis, and treatment program, oftentimes ignoring the actual root cause of any of the pain in either cases and treating them for things that oftentimes they don't have. And yet, me talking about reform of these laws means I'm anti-victim. I'm trying to take away victims' rights and the victim's ability to claim vengeance on somebody that they feel has wronged them. Never mind the false pedophilia claims or the ways in which the term itself, pedophilia, has been hijacked, made synonymous with child molestation, and used to silence people that society deems as being inappropriate, rather than actually challenging that person's talking points, that person's studies or data. I know because I've been a victim of that, for simply saying that, well, not all pedophiles are child molesters, and not all child molesters are pedophiles. Just as not all male rapists in the Army are gay. And in fact, it's actually not gays who are raping men in the Army, it's situational rapists. Just as situational rapists are raping children, not because they have an actual preference towards these children, but because they have the opportunity. You know, that's why I take issue at times with people saying, well, the problem with Christianity is all these pedophile priests. Well, in some cases you're right, when we're talking offending pedophiles, but in many cases you're not right. You're talking about actual predators, actual molesters, or child rapists, as well as situational rapists, all of whom are not technically nor diagnosably pedophiles. And that's really been my point, is keeping our terms straight, keeping this talk genuine, not disingenuous, keeping this talk intellectually honest instead of intellectually dishonest, which is what most of the opposition to my talking about, looking at this topic from a logic standpoint. What does the data say? What are we finding from prison data? What are we finding from victims who have been misdiagnosed, mistreated, and therefore become broken people in their lives? Oh, but no, I'm evil for wanting to fix both the victim side and the actual offender side of things and fix our laws so that we're not casting so wide a net that we're ruining kids' lives for having the audacity, we're ruining teenagers' lives for having the audacity to be sexual beings and break a law that is meant for adults having sex with children and teenagers. Oh boy. I also ported over my vaccine talk. I may actually go back and try with less venom to finish that series up. I'm not sure at this point that I want to. The articles are all there. The supporting articles for those articles, the supporting studies for all of the articles in the main article are all on the article itself. As well as any outside data that I could bring in there is generally covered by the article itself. I'm not saying it's airtight, but it's definitely a lot more airtight than the anti-vaxxers. I mean, you know, this flu season that's come about that is considered influenza force wouldn't be so bad if we had, oh, I don't know, something called herd immunity, something that we have weakened over the years through people being conscientious objectors, using the Wakefield, even though it's been debunked, report to tout that vaccines are this, vaccines are that, they're not effective, they're this, they're snake oil, they're mind control via the government. I am so sick of this topic, as I'm sick of many topics. Lastly, I ported over the video game violence studies, because that's going to play a role in a lot of today's broadcast, because we're still, despite what academics are saying, we're still fighting this battle of, gee, I don't know, does video game violence or media violence make a normal person a violent maniac killer? The short answer is no. The long answer is hell no. And I've got plenty, so many friggin' studies, especially done around now, not done around Bandura's junk data, to show that there is little to no link to this. And yet people persist. We've got Joe Biden on a personal quest to try to find out once and for all, does violent video games and violent media contribute to a violent society and violent people? And despite the fact that I could easily brief him, and I'm not even a PhD in this case, on the actual stance of what science, actual science, when they take an actual objective look at this topic, have found. They don't even have to pay me, not that they pay people for their appearances, they don't even have to pay me to come up there. I will lovingly go up there and give them the straight, non-profane truth about violence in video games and media. And then I would hope that this would end this. But knowing this society, knowing the people around this idea of morality, violence, and media, this is never going to go away. And in a way, it's a waste of time to even prove that there's a link between violence, video games, and violent behavior, because they're still not going to be happy enough. If it's anything that offends them, it's automatically immoral, and therefore is the cause of all evils, never mind the actual cause of the problems in this country when it comes to violent offenders. And no, it's not the mentally unbalanced, as this is becoming a scapegoat-orama about, because people don't want to have this conversation. But I'm running over time, so let me get to that talk.